This evening, we are going to hear from individuals in 5 races this evening. We have a representative that is from the Ohio 12th District Court of Appeals that is going to be speaking with us. We have David Uible, who's running for State Senate District 14 against incumbent Terry Johnson. And then we will do the Brown County Recorder's race, Brown County Commissioner, and finish the evening with State Representative District 66, which features Nick Owens, Adam Byrne, and Alan Freeman. So without further ado, I would like to invite Matthew Byrne to the stage, and we will hear from him about his race for Ohio 12th District Court of Appeals.
All right, well, thank you, Wayne. My name is Matthew Byrne, and as Wayne just said, I'm running for Judge on the 12th District Court of Appeals. I'll give you a quick overview first of what is the Court of Appeals, because not everybody is necessarily familiar with it. Most people, when they think about the courts, think about our trial courts. The courts that hear criminal matters, civil matters, domestic relations, family matters, all those things start in trial courts. So your court of common pleas, your municipal court, county court. But once those cases are decided, a final decision has been reached, parties can appeal those decisions, and those appeals go to the Court of Appeals, unless it's a death penalty case when it goes straight to the Ohio Supreme Court. This Court of Appeals that I'm running for, the 12th District, covers all of Brown County and all of 7 other counties. Brown, Claremont, Warren, Butler, Preble, Clinton, Fayette, and Madison. Excuse me, I'm actually a Warren County resident. I live in Deerfield Township. I've been spending a lot of time here in Brown County for, well, probably a year now, getting to know you and your community, and I've really enjoyed it. Let me tell you a little bit about, in more detail, what the court does and why I think I'm the right candidate for this position. When an appeal goes to the court, these cases are not like trial court cases. It's a fundamentally different job. There's no trial. There are no witnesses. You don't have motions going back and forth. You don't have attorneys kind of coming and going. Instead, the party that's appealing files a brief. It's a written argument that's not very brief, 20 pages or so, laying out why they think that the court below is wrong. The judges read that brief. The other party files their brief. The judges read the briefs that have been filed. They do some research. They possibly have an oral argument, which is pretty short, just a little bit of time, half an hour or so, in some cases. And then they write their decision. And the decisions that the court reaches are made by 3 judges, not 1. Every case is heard by a panel of 3 judges. And just like you think about we hear about the U.S. Supreme Court, there's a majority opinion and maybe a dissent. That same type of thing can potentially happen with the 3-judge panel. There are 5 judges on this court. We have a seat that is going to be vacant. We have Judge Robert Ringland is retiring, and that's the seat I'm running for. My argument to voters is that, a lot of voters struggle with, well, how do I decide who to vote for the courts? Because a lot of people don't necessarily know who the candidates are or, why they're running. I think that voters should apply the same criteria that President Trump is applying with his federal judicial nominations. And that's really 2 things. It boils down to legal excellence in the individual's career and a demonstrated commitment to the right judicial philosophy. I meet both criteria. In my legal career, I'm an attorney practicing at a law firm called Jackson Lewis. It's a national law firm. We represent businesses in civil litigation, in federal and state trial and appeals courts. I've handled both trial level matters and appeals matters in a number of different courts, both in Ohio, Kentucky, and elsewhere. I'm admitted in both Ohio and Kentucky. I'm proud of that practice. A lot of the matters I handle are in large civil matters like large wage and hour class actions, discrimination cases, non-competes, etc. And it's the type of practice that I think leaves me well suited for this court. In addition, I have the right judicial philosophy that I think voters want and expect out of a judicial candidate. My belief is that when it comes to the courts, the role of the courts is very limited. The courts are there to decide the cases put before them and to decide cases based on the law as it already exists. Judges should say what the law already is, not create new law. In addition, judges should when faced with a question involving the text of the Constitution or a statute, look to the original meaning of the words, determine what are the words in that document, how were they used, and what did they mean at the time that they were passed. The judge's job is not to change the meaning of the words, not to create new law. And this is not something I just say because I'm running for the court. I've been committed to these ideas my entire legal career. I was president of the Federalist Society's Cincinnati Lawyers chapter covering Southwest Ohio for 5 years before running for judge. I have been involved in that organization my entire career. It's dedicated to these ideas I just described, constitutional originalism and textualism. You can have assurance, if you vote for me in this primary, that I am the type of candidate who actually believes in the limited role of the judiciary. In addition, just a little bit about me, beyond my practice, prior to going to law school, I went to Ohio State, but prior to law school I worked in the Bush White House, helping to select candidates for appointment and nomination to positions in the federal government, where I think really absorbed this idea that when we look at selecting people for positions, you really have to look at who they are and what their real philosophy is. I'm also very active in our church. Again, that's in Deerfield Township. I'm on the Education Commission there that oversees our children's school. Served as president of that body for a year. I'm also active in a number of bar associations, in various civic and community groups. I'm on the board of Pregnancy Center East, a pro-life pro-life pregnancy center helping women in difficult situations. And this is an important race. It's important because these decisions that the court decides, they set a precedent. No matter what the judges intend, their written opinion creates a precedent that affects how lower courts in the district will interpret the law in the future. I urge you, because of the great importance that role fills, that you take time to look at the candidates for this race. Feel free to talk to me. I'll be here afterwards. You can also go to my website, Matthew Byrne for courtofappeals.com, and my name, for those of you listening on the radio, is spelled with a Y, B-Y-R-N-E. I hope to earn your vote and earn your support. I've enjoyed my time in Brown County, and I'll continue to be here. If you elect me as judge, I think it's important that judges continue to be involved in the community, to show up at events. I've done that for years in my community. I'm doing it here, and I'll continue to do it in the future. I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Matthew Byrne, candidate for Ohio 12th District Judge. We'd like to bring up Senate District 14 candidate David Uible at this time. His opponent, incumbent Senator Terry Johnson, is not attending this evening. We'd just like to begin with a little bit of an opening statement, some of the things that you might have discussed had Dr. Johnson been here, and we'll just move on from there.
Sure. Well, I'll give you a little background on myself. I'm not a politician in the sense that for 31 years I had my own business. I started in 1989, but I came out of school with a Bachelor in Science of Mechanical Engineering at Purdue. But I started my first business in '89 to basically provide mainframe computers to a group of banks in Switzerland. From there I went into Russia, and I took over the former Soviet Ministry of Health's publishing arm and turned that around in about 3 years. Did very well with it, to the point where the government came in 3 years later in '96 and renationalized it. So I took that as a compliment, but it was kind of the MBA course I never had. But from there, over the last 31 years, I've had 10 companies that I've either started or acquired. And currently I just have 2 businesses. I have a manufacturing company in Uible, Ohio, where we make industrial valves. And my wife and I, who's here tonight, Cindy, and we have a farm in New Richmond where we raise bison. We've been doing that for 25 years. We've been in the meat business, selling USDA meat to jungle gyms and Biggs and a few other places throughout the tri-state. For the most part, I got into politics in 2012 because we had a commissioner that stepped down in Claremont County, and they needed to appoint a commissioner. The county had run 3 years of deficit spending, and there were 12 people that threw their hat in the ring. I was not one of the 12, but 2 days before the appointment, I had a group of people come to me and said, we don't like the 12 people that are asking for this appointment. Would you please run? My background, of course, is business, but it's finance, of course. So I agreed to do that. I said I wasn't going to do any campaigning or make any phone calls to get appointed, but I will show up on Wednesday. So I was a 13th candidate. My name was not on the list. They had to write in my name. And at the end of the evening, I ended up with 68% of the vote, and I was the next commissioner. But after 3 years of deficit spending, within 8 months, we passed a balanced budget. Therefore, for the next 6 years, we had a surplus budget. The county had $20 million of bond debt when I came in. Within 3 years, we paid off the $20 million of bond debt. And by the time I left at the end of 18, we put $15 million into savings. So we did well. We had fewer employees when I left after 6 years from the county than when I came in, and the county grew by about 3% during that time. Personally, my goals coming in, Wayne, this is just an opening statement, or do you want to ask questions, or what's the format here?
Well, it's just kind of you, so I just kind of like with the candidate for the 12th district, but there are a couple of things that we discussed prior. So there are some aspects of the race that people may be familiar with because they have seen some advertisements or other discussions. So I think the elephant in the room is probably some of that stuff. The issues with the petition when you were running for commissioner again. So why don't we just go ahead and pop that bubble?
Okay. I think the state caucus did a great job of sending out a beautiful flyer with my picture on it. I think many of you guys have received that. Basically, I'm the first person in Claremont County's history to be prosecuted for basically getting 2, 3, 4, 5 names on my petition when I was running for commissioner in 2018 that were not witnessed. You know, you have a petition, but you have a circulator of the petition, and the person that was circulating my petition did not witness the 5 names. Didn't think about it. In fact, the 5 people that signed it did not know they were signing a petition, that I wasn't circulating it, even though the name of the person circulating it was about 2 inches below their name. The point is that we only circulate these petitions every 2 or 4 years, and it's just not something we do on a regular basis. I did not need the extra names. I had plenty of names to be on the ballot. I had 53 names, 54 names already. I only needed 50. But the 2 commissioners in Claremont County were the 2 that signed it, along with our county recorder. And basically, when I turned it in, not knowing that this was a petition that I did not circulate, once again, there was no reason for me to cheat the system. I had enough names. That was what happened. The Board of Elections in Claremont County said, basically, we've never prosecuted anybody for this. We've always just thrown out the petition, which is penalty in itself. They said there's 3 to 5 situations like this every year that they throw out. The county prosecutor said he refused to prosecute me for something like this, since they've never prosecuted anybody in the past for something like this. And a year and a half later, the Attorney General decided they're going to come down and prosecute me. I don't know why, because the first time he interviewed me a year and a half earlier, they said this was a mistake, and basically they were told to pursue this and investigate it, but he realized after talking to me that it was a mistake. But a year and a half later, they decided they were going to prosecute me. Nothing had changed during that time. The end result was I pled a misdemeanor, which is like driving without a license. It's like driving without insurance. It's like disturbing the peace. Those are all misdemeanors. But in the end, I get my picture taken because they had to book me that day. I did not spend any time in jail. It was the same day of the court case. I was in and out of the jail in about a half hour. They would not let me leave my tie on, but still it became public record, and that's what the state caucus was salivating over. they were quite excited about the fact that this happened, and I start to wonder why it happened. But
Okay, all right, so I know that people all over the district have received those mailers, so I thought that was something that we needed to
this
address.
is an unusual year, Wayne. I think we've seen lots of mailers about everybody, and the state House caucus as well as the Senate caucus are pulling out all the stops to do whatever they can to get their candidates elected. And I think you have to wonder if someone's going to spend, in my case, I was told by Senator Niehaus, former president of the Senate, that they would spend $1 million to defeat me. Well, that's a bit crazy, isn't it? I start to wonder if Senator Johnson was appointed and then they put $1 million to get elected, not reelected, but elected. Do they own his vote? I think they do, but that's kind of where we're at. That's one of the reasons why I'm running, because I think the people should decide who gets to become their representatives or senators. And in this case, we get the political elite in Columbus deciding with their bank full of money to decide who's our next representative. So that's where we're at.
All right, so if elected, what would some of your priorities, focuses be?
Well, being a business guy, I think what we need to work on is going back to the early 70s. Governor Rhodes put in State Route 32, and it was designed for economic development. One of the things we've got currently in the 14th district, our district in the Senate, we've got some of the highest unemployment rates in the state of Ohio. Now, Claremont County has got a fairly low unemployment rate, but Brown County's got a higher unemployment rate. Adams County has, I think, one of the worst unemployment rates in the state, and Sauter County is right behind it. So I think we need to work on economic development. We need to find jobs. We need to make businesses in the 14th district more competitive with other districts. We need to be more competitive with other states. We recently had hundreds of employees lose their jobs down at the Killen and Stewart plants. And we need to find businesses to come in here to create jobs with this high unemployment rate. Some of the things I've got, I know as a small business owner over the years, but it's very onerous as a business owner to be paying high worker comp rates and state unemployment insurance rates. And I think we need to create an economic development zone in this district where we have such high unemployment to incentivize companies to come here. As a business owner, I would do that. I would open an office in Adams County or Sauter if I knew that the operating costs were tremendously cheaper and lower. But those are the goals I have. They're economic development. It's about creating jobs. And I feel that's something we need to do. And I think there's other districts of the state of Ohio where other senators and representatives would work with me to create these economic development zones in the state. So, of course, I'm a lifelong member of the NRA from the standpoint of pro Second Amendment rights, and would like to protect our Second Amendment rights. Pro-life, believe in fighting Planned Parenthood around every corner. They're out around every corner. And also, being a farmer, I believe that we have serious problems, and I learned this when I was a commissioner. We have serious algal bloom problems in our Lake Harsha. We're seeing it in our streams, and this fall it was even in the Ohio River. And a lot of those algal blooms are coming from farmers, and I'm not blaming farmers, being a farmer, but I think I'd like to work with farmers to help them save their money. Put it this way, if they spend $100 for fertilizers and $25 goes into the streams and rivers, they lost $25. So I'd like to work with the farmers, and I think they'd like to work with me to find ways to keep these fertilizers in their fields and out of our streams and waterways. So those are the primary reasons I'd like to, or goals I'd like to work on in Columbus.
I do have one more question before we wrap up. The 14th district has over half of the counties in the state that have accidental overdose death rates in the top 25%. It's probably, if you were to say, the worst district in the state as far as that problem goes. So what is your thought to address that issue?
When I came in as commissioner in 2018, the governor had just signed a bill allowing something called a CASC, a community Community Alternative Sentencing Center. I thought this was not the beginning, but we were well on our way of having these opioid overdoses at that time. And I liked the concept, researched it, decided that Claremont County, we had a very large jail. In fact, we were only using half of it. So I said, let's research this and open up our own CASK. So we ended up doing that. It opened its doors in 2013. The CASK is something that allows a judge to put a nonviolent misdemeanor alcoholic or an opioid user not in jail, but in the CASK. And there they can spend 60 to 90 days learning to life skills and writing resumes and how to get jobs and basically getting off of the track they were on. And quite often we put these addicts in jail and they don't learn anything. And maybe we dry them out for 60 days or 90 days, but they leave jail with a whole new set of friends. And these are not friends that you want to be hanging out with. But at the CASK, we had a very successful recidivism rate. It dropped tremendously as opposed to that went to jail and came out of jail. That was basically a revolving door. But the CASK was successful. In 2015, I got the state to allow other counties to have judges sentence their addicts to the Claremont County CASK. So now we can get people from Brown County, Adams County, Sauter County, the judges can send them to the CASK in Claremont County. And I think that's one possibility, Wayne, I think, to improve the situation. But I think it's a multifaceted problem, but we have crested, and the deaths have been coming down in the last 2 years. That's a good sign, but still any deaths are too many, so we need to continue to work on this.
All right, anything else you'd like to wrap up with? We've covered quite a bit.
I believe my opponent has, I don't believe in negative campaigning, but since my opponent kind of opened the doors here, I'm not going to get personal, I'm going to be factual about Senator Johnson. But I think it was back at the Brown County meeting maybe 3 months ago, and he said, I'm never going to allow anybody doing negative campaigning. We're going to be positive all the way. Well, since that time, I've been positive. In fact, tonight's the first time that I've really opened up to say anything about Mr. Johnson, but I feel everything he's done for me, the mailers they've sent out, the billboards, the TV ads on Fox News, digital advertising, it's honestly, it's political terrorism. I can't believe that this guy's a senator and he's pulling these punches. But we're seeing it in the House as well, but unfortunately I think I've got the biggest target on my back. But Hart Wallingford is the chairman of the Republican Party in Adams County. Terry Johnson was a representative in Adams County for 8 years. And about 2 months ago, he was talking to Terry Johnson, who he called up, and Terry said, well, look, I can come out there anytime as long as it's Friday afternoon. Basically, Terry has 2 full-time jobs. He's a director of a health clinic, and he is associate dean of medical school. Those are his 2 full-time jobs. Public record, his ethics report last year showed that he made $340,000. That's a lot of money. You start to wonder, why would you go to Columbus 2 days a week for 60 when you're having to give up part of that $340,000 a year, and that's the minimum is $340,000 that he made. I don't know exactly what he made. But that's the situation. This is the second debate we've had. Terry hasn't shown up. In fact, I haven't seen Terry since December 3rd, I believe, when he asked for the endorsement in Claremont County. So that's the situation we have here. We've had multiple people call his office. He always says, please call me. I've yet to have him return my phone calls or anybody else I've spoken to phone calls. I should think you'd have to talk to your constituents and return their phone call. Personally, I return calls the same day or within 24 hours. At the last meeting 2 weeks ago, somebody asked, since Terry didn't show up, they asked his campaign person there, when is Terry going to basically get out and talk to people, and is he going to answer questions? And the campaign person said, why should he? He'll maybe come out after he's elected. And that was audio recorded. It's been on Facebook, so you can listen to that yourself. My biggest concern is that we're going to get Mr. Johnson, Senator Johnson, for the next 8 years, and he'll be a feckless senator. And we need people, we need a senator that will listen to our needs, someone that will go to Columbus and lobby for us. And if you can't return a phone call, I don't think you'll be doing much lobbying for our benefit. And lastly, I'll just comment when I said this is factual, but public record, I got a public records request on Senator Johnson after his last year in the House, 2018. Of the 99 representatives, I believe he had the highest absentee rate from the committee meetings, and he had the highest votes that he did not vote on, or I guess it's absent votes maybe, but of the 369 votes in 2018, he missed 103 of them. So it's about 28%. So honestly, I would say if I was senator, I'd like to think that I would make 100% of those votes. But once again, this job is third on his list of jobs, and he said he won't give up his first 2 jobs. So I haven't been negative all year, but I did tonight because I feel like I need to. But as I said, that was not personal; it was factual. So all in all, I appreciate your time, and I hope to talk to you all again. Feel free to catch me afterwards. Thank you.
All right, thank you. David Uible, candidate for Senate District 14. I wanted to remind you guys that back there at the table in the back, we have pens and index cards. If you want to submit any questions to the candidates for Recorder, Commissioner, or House District 66, you have that opportunity back there. Please keep the questions relevant, and I will pre-screen them before I read them. So, please just make sure that we keep things on track the way they should be. All right, the next race we would like to invite to the stage is Brown County Recorder. We would like Amy Jo DeClaire and Vicki Worley to come to the stage. So we're going to get a little setup going here. All right, incumbent recorder Amy Jo DeClaire and challenger Vicki Worley, we would like to actually just say that we appreciate you guys being here, and we look forward to a good conversation. So, Vicki, why don't you go first with an opening statement, and we'll just proceed from there.
Okay, I'm a fledgling in this political realm. I want to thank Wayne Gates, actually, for getting me involved in this process, because I got involved in this process as a result of an article that was in the Brown County Press in November of 2018. In my opinion, our elected officials are accountable to the taxpayers. And at the time that this article came out, our current recorder had taken an additional position in another county without bringing it to Brown County's attention. So in that regard, she's in another position, full-time position, worked 56 days in that position, and the county didn't know it. And as a taxpayer in Brown County, paying tax dollars, that's taxpayer money being spent for a salary that, in my opinion, wasn't earned. So that's why I got involved in this process. I feel it needs fixed, and if I'm going to be the person that's going to complain about it, I'm going to be part of the process to fix it.
Well, Amy, now you have an opportunity to make an opening statement. Essentially, you want to address what Vicki said, we can do that, or you can say what you intended to say. We'll just make that the first question when we move on.
I am Manager DeClaire. I am your current Byrne County Recorder. I have been since 2008. I am a graduate from Western Brown High School. My father is Derry Pursley. I'm married to Danny DeClaire. We've been married since 2002, so almost 18 years. We have 3 small children. I have always been honest. I have always been open. I have always been your county recorder. I've been here for you. My opening statement is if reelected, if you have confidence in me to continue the job that I have done with the measurable and provable results, I will still be here for you. I will still be at your events. I will still be here to answer your questions. I will still be here to help you do your research. I am here to serve you as I have done in the past and as my family has always done, serving this community and county. I believe in this community. I believe this community is growing. I believe that all our offices need people who will help it grow, who will help make things more accessible and more valuable and more attractive to those people who want to come here. Because there was the movement where everybody moved to the city, but we are now out of the urban sprawl. I am here to help you. And if you can't get to my office between 8 and 4 when I am there, you can call me at home. My cell phone has always been available. It has been in the paper. It has been on my website. It has been everywhere. I am here to serve you because I believe in public servants. I don't believe in vendettas.
All right, is there anything that you would like to say that directly addresses what Vicki brought up and some of the stuff that's been in the news over the past 18 months?
In the past 18 months, I think we have all talked about it. I have been here. I have been available to your questions. If you have questions, please call me. At this point, that is bringing up something that is, in my opinion, is done and gone. And I have made mistakes, and I have never promised to be perfect. And I honestly, I am not perfect, and I don't expect anyone to be perfect, but I can guarantee you I don't make the same mistake twice. And no, I don't have any reason to address anyone else's comments. If you have comments and you want to talk to me, I am more than happy to do that, but I am here to talk about what I have done and what I can do for you.
Okay, Vicki, you kind of brought up why you're running, but can you tell us a little bit more about your personal background, your education, what you would bring to the table if elected as recorder?
I studied business administration at the University of Cincinnati. I did not complete that program, but I have several years of business and office management involved in the construction trades. Took a business in Sharonville where we were at a $30,000 a year or $30,000 a month in sales. We were well up over $100,000 within 6 months of me being there. I believe in if you're hired to do a job, you do your job, you're there when the office is open, and as a manager, most management functions that I've ever had, you're actually, instead of a 40-hour week, you're at least a 55-hour week or not, or more, because you lead by example. With cell phone technology and internet technology, I don't believe that the tax-paying public is willing to pay what we're paying for full-time employees to do their work from home. If the office is open, they need to be there. We have offices in the county engineer, the commissioner's offices, where their job requires them to be out of their office, gaining new business for the company, out checking roads, bridges, and whatever. The recorder's business is in the office, not at home, not in another office. So in my opinion, we're paying two people to do a job that we elected one person to do, because that person is not in the office. So it's in effect a waste of taxpayers' dollars.
Amy, what changes would you make in the office if re-elected? Are there any sort of technology changes in the offing or any procedural changes that you could tell the public about?
First off, my office has had the same staffing level since 1989 when DeClaire was recorder. My budget has only increased 1.42% since I took office in 2008. Opposed. And a lot of that has to do with changes in how budgets are done. Other than that, right now, my office is operating basically with savings that I've created from contract negotiations. So we have, that fact, when I took over, I started with indexes online from 1994. Now you can get these back to 1979. We've had legislative changes that required, the day I took office, required that Social Security numbers cannot be online. I took the images down. We did that in-house to redact all that information and make sure that was not done with no cost to the taxpayer, where other counties had to pay. Since then, we have also taken care of getting rid of the DD-214s that were no longer considered public record. We pulled them out of the OR books, and we did that with no cost to the taxpayer. My office is operated efficiently. We spend much of our time not only dealing with the daily business, but ensuring that the history of our county is preserved. Part of my plan moving forward, I do have a 5-year plan, and it is available for anybody that wants to see. I started that a few years ago. Right now, our biggest plan is we have done a lot of things in-house. Right now, I do spend some time at home, but not during normal office hours, looking at, we have a lot of images that are reversed images that are deeds and whatnot, and it's easier to change them in the dark, and I can't really turn off the lights in my office. So I do that at night after my children go to bed, if they go to bed. So we need to get those images reversed. To do that externally is very cost prohibitive. We also have some plats in our first plat cabinet that need to be re-indexed. I have spoken with many of the title searchers and whatnot about having a golf outing to raise the money, because it's about $7,000 to get the sleeves and things to preserve them in the proper form. To raise that money independently of asking taxpayers to do it, because most people don't realize that the recorder's office exists. These are things we do. My intention is to get more available to you, more accessible to you, more safely to you. We are continually getting more online. We are continually getting more available to you. I have created a website that I built myself. I didn't pay someone to build. That gives you more information. I've gotten you deeds and more information online back to 1979 so you can check to make sure nobody's putting anything against your property. And we continue to put more online. And the more we put online, the easier it is for someone to do a title search, the easier it is for you to do a title search. The easier that is the less it costs you. It's easier to do business in this county because most people are starting to require 100-year title searches. And with that, if it takes them less time, you may not see it. It's not a check you write, but it is a check that you end up paying for, because when you do your mortgage and when you do these things, they charge you for that. And when it's easier to do it, there are many counties in the state, the recorder's office is not cooperative and does not have the amount of history online that we do. And it costs them more to get a loan. It costs them more to do business in those counties. And I hear title searchers all the time saying, I won't go to that county. And I have probably 100 letters talking about how easy it is to do business in my office and thanking me personally for the help I have given them. And if you would like to see them, I would be more than happy to give them to you.
All right, Vicki, you've talked about some of your concerns about why you're running, and you talked about attendance, and you talked about your background. How familiar are you with the day-to-day operation of the recorder's office, and what, if any, changes or adjustments would you make if elected?
I have been involved in the construction trades for the last 20 years. So I am aware of the title search aspect. I've also held a real estate license, so I understand the workings of title offices and things of that nature. Not having actually worked in her office, I can't sit here and say what I would change or what I would do. I do have many years of office management experience, and I can learn to do whatever is necessary to get it done. My concern is the money involved in running the office, because from where I sit, we're paying a salary for somebody to actually be in the office doing the job, and when she is not in that job, we are now paying somebody else to do the job that she was hired to do. That's my biggest concern, because now we're paying 2 salaries, 2 sets of health insurance, 2 sets of PERS, state government employee benefits. So the cost is not just the salary, it's everything that goes along with it. So, you know, in that realm, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars, because we're already paying somebody to do that function.
All right, you got to go first, so I'm going to ask you, do you have any final thoughts? And then we'll go to Amy for her closing statement.
I just appreciate all the help that I've been given in starting this process and working through this process, and I would appreciate your support on March the 17th.
Amy, final thoughts?
One of them, I really think I spoke better, and I'd like to thank the FFA for my opportunity to speak, because I did public speaking in the FFA, and my final thoughts is vote for me. I would appreciate it. I will always appreciate it, and I'm very humble with it all. And I am here to serve you, and I am here, and I am always available to you, and I know you take that as I'm not in the office, but I'm in the office. But what I would also really like to say is, because I love Doug Dyer, is please consider the 4-H vote. It's important to us, it's important to our youth, and And, you know, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for FFA and those things. And I was raised in this community, and it makes leaders.
All right, well, thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate your time today. Next up on the stage, we'd like to invite the 4 candidates for Brown County Commissioner: incumbent Darrell Gray, challengers Thomas Mays, Dave Daniel, and Woody Whittington. All right, we've got 4 chairs and 2 microphones, so no violence, please. So the first one to swing gets a stern lecture. All right, so what I want to do is kind of follow the same format. I want to offer each of you the opportunity to make a brief opening statement to kind of get your own take on things about, you can say basically anything you want, why you're running, that sort of thing. We're going to get into that a little bit with some of the specific questions, but the opening and closing statements are your opportunity to kind of get your own thoughts out there. It's up to you whether to react to something that someone else has said or whether you just want to say what you've got on your own mind. And I'm just going to ask you some questions, rotate who goes first and last, so we'll go in order on the table, so we'll be able to get through this. So let's go ahead and start with you, Mr. Whittington. Go ahead and pick up your microphone, make sure you hold it up to your mouth so people can hear you, and just pass it along when you're done. And then Darrell and Tom, you can share that one on the other end.
Hello everyone, my name is Woody Whittington and I'm running for Brown County Commissioner. This is kind of different for me. Usually when I'm on stage behind with a mic, I got drums and guitars behind me and carrying on. So I'm about to have a pool contest going on. So this is kind of different for me, but my heart is for Brown County to grow. I used to drive up here every weekend from Cincinnati, Ohio, every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, and sometimes Fridays. But I would come up here to play music, and I met a lot of people, a lot of great musicians here in Brown County, and I just fell in love with the place. And after a while, I met my wife Rose, who also lived in Brown County. So, you know, that really made me fall in love. So we made this our home, and so we've lived in Brown County for over 36 years now. We have 4 kids, all graduated from Western Brown. We have 8 grandkids and 4 great-granddaughters. So imagine that. I've just retired after 45 years of printing, and I'm kind of bored. So I'm currently on the council for the Village of Mount Orb for the past 10 years. I was on the Board of Public Affairs for 3 years. 1 year I was president of that. Currently I'm on the zoning board for the past 10 years, finance committee for 10 years. I'm vice president for a Christmas parade for the past 12 years, and founder of Mount Orb Music in the Park. So, which I'm very proud of because it's really growing. And by the way, I've got some great groups coming in this summer. In the past, I've been vice president of Local Union 624 for the printers, chief steward for Local 624 for 12 years, and also have served as director staff on the Shriners. So I've dealt with a few budgets and negotiated a few contracts. I've been a Master Mason for almost 40 years, past Master of Masons of Ohio, at Linwood Lodge in 1990, and New Harmony Lodge here in Brown County in 2005. I'm a member of the Shriners, Royal Arch Masons, Scottish Rite, and I have a level 3 sign language at the Cincinnati Hearing and Speech Center for the Deaf. As a councilman for the past 10 years, I've always felt that part of my job was to focus on our businesses in the area and to help them grow. Not just to check on them, not just to see if they're okay, but to make sure they grow. Whenever they have functions, ribbon cuttings, sales, open appointments, anything that I could help to share to make that happen for them, I was always there to share. And also through Mountain Road Music in the Park, we draw thousands of people all summer long for the past 10 years into our county. Thousands of them all summer long, and they visit our stores and they eat at our restaurants. So, I'm sure some of them are like, you know what, I love this county. I wouldn't mind bringing my family up here and living up here. And also, some of them looking to start a business. They see all these people, all these good people, and feel, well, shoot, I could start a business here.
We don't want you to give everything away first, though, Lee. So,
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, but I am going to ask other questions about background and priorities and things like that. So, why don't you pass the mic to Dave there, and Dave Daniel, Challenger, just give us an opening statement about why you're here and why you're running.
Thanks, Wayne. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Daniel, running for Brown County Commissioner. Just a few little points here. I come from a hardworking family. We've always been, I just found this out not too long ago. My grandfather on my dad's side originally came from Flemingsburg, Kentucky. My grandmother is from Ireland. Grandpa moved from Flemingsburg to Cincinnati in 1935, where he met my grandmother. He started our roofing company. My grandparents on my mother's side, just a family thing. It's a kind of a little joke with us. Hillbillies. We're tobacco farmers from Virginia. That's what they've done their whole life. That's what my uncles do. And that. My mom and dad were married for 48 years until his death. He got his cancer from working out at the Fernald uranium plant. He was a 52-year union man. I grew up in a union household. Yes, Democrat household, married a Republican. Was a Republican before I married her. Came from a strong Republican family. My father-in-law, my mother-in-law served in the Hamilton County Republican Party for close to 50 years. Bonnie and myself have been married for 27 years. We have 2 kids. Rachel and Jacob started school in Georgetown. Made a promise to Jake. Wanted to play football when he was little. Made him a promise. Told him, Jake, can't play football until you're in junior high. Thinking that would pass, it didn't. Came 7th grade, he's like, Dad, you made me a promise I could play football. The only school that had football was Western Brown. Sent the kids to Western Brown. Both of them graduated from Western Brown. They both have gone on to college. Rachel was graduated from Fenham. Jacob's now is a sophomore at Indiana Wesleyan University, playing football. Like I said, they both graduated from Western Brown. I grew up working with my grandfather, my dad in our shop. I have worked all over Brown County. Bonnie has worked in every school district in Brown County except one, with special needs kids. We understand what the special needs people of this county need. I've seen her come home many times crying over the kids in our system that aren't getting fed. We had one instance, I want to touch on this real quick, is she came home one night crying. The parents wanted to give their child to Bonnie. How do you do that to your own kid? How do you look at them? And we had to say no. It was the hardest things we ever did. I graduated from Amelia High School. I graduated from U.S. Grant Vocational School, and I have a college at UC. I've been in business for myself for 22 years. Before that, I worked for a commercial realty firm, and here recently I worked as a construction consultant for a firm out of Cincinnati. We did a little work on the Jeff Ruby's in Lexington. I redid King's Ford for them. I know money, I know budgets. I've been involved in projects from as low as $5,000 to as high as $11 million. I am a Christian, I'm God-fearing, Jesus-loving, hardcore Christian. When I give you a promise, I'm just not promising you something, but I'm promising God. And I stand behind any time I make a promise. Thanks.
All right, Tom? Tom Mays. Oh, thank you. I'm Tom Mays, and I'm running for Brown County Commissioner like these other gentlemen up here. A little bit about me, and I'm going to try to keep it really short because as an attorney I can talk for a really long period of time and say nothing important. So, I started coming to Brown County when my grandparents bought the Napa stores here back in the late 80s. They lived here and ran those Napa stores until about 95, and I grew up coming down here going to Lake Winoka. I took swim lessons there, and my kids take swim lessons with the same instructor that I had. And then when I graduated law school, I had the opportunity to take a job here with Judge Butt when he had his law office open. And I worked there for a year and a half. My wife and I moved here. We now live in Georgetown, and we have 4 beautiful children together. And they go to Georgetown schools, well, the ones that can go to school. I am now currently partners at McCon, Cottrell, Purdy & Mays with Stan Purdy. We run that office. And then we also have a title agency, and I also have just a small couple commercial properties that I'm the owner of that I rent out as a small business owner. When I started running for commissioner, the question I kept getting asked is, why do you want to run for commissioner? What do you want to do that for? And as part of being a lawyer, something that I started doing as my predecessor did was that I started working for villages. And I have worked for 4 villages in the past. And something that working for a village as an attorney gives you is a unique insight into what issues local governments are facing. Local villages all kind of are facing the same kind of issues. They have blight issues, they have job issues, they have poverty issues, they have crime issues. And so that gave me a unique perspective. But as a lawyer, I don't have any decision-making power. I can just advise them as to the questions that they have. And then the other thing that I started doing as a lawyer is I started working with the Adams County Land Bank and now with the Brown County Land Bank. And something that that organization can do is help with some of these issues with blight, with abandoned gas stations, and can get grant money to do that. So when I started seeing all of these issues, I kind of wanted to get to a different level to where I could help making an impact and helping improve the people's lives in Brown County. So that's why I started to thinking about running for commissioner, and that happened about a year ago. And then the other thing that happened is I am in the Army National Guard, and I'm a JAG officer in that, and I was a combat medic before that. And I have unique ability to talk to a lot of people from across the state, other attorneys who do the same thing. And one of those attorneys who is in economic development, and I started forming a friendship, and he started enlightening me as to issues with Brown, Adams, and Scioto County. And those issues that he was bringing to my attention as the economic development guy really got my brain starting to think, well, if I can get to the commissioner level, maybe these are changes that I could help effectuate so that the people of Brown County can benefit. So with that, the reason I'm running is because I believe that I have a unique perspective on how to improve the county. A perspective that maybe that others don't have just because of life experiences. I am a family man. As everybody else up here, we're all Republicans. And so I think we all have the same basic values. And I would like to earn your support. Thank you.
All right. Finally, incumbent Commissioner Darrell Gray.
My name's Darrell Gray. I've been your commissioner for the last 8 years, or this is the 8th year. My family moved into Brown County in 1957. I graduated from Hammersville High School. I met my lovely wife at Hammersville. She's put up with me now for 56 years. I don't know how she did it, but she did. We run a business in Brown County for 38 years. We hired employees, we met payroll, we paid vendors' bills, paid taxes, and we did not go bankrupt. So, we have 3 kids, we've got 8 grandkids, and I'm not old enough for 4 great-grandkids, but that's what I have. So, I believe in these past 7 years that I have done an excellent job as your commissioner, and that's all I got to say.
All right. Since we started with Woody, Dave, you're next for the first question. What are the top 2 problems facing the county, and what are your potential solutions to solve those problems?
Well, over the past several years, we've, as the opioid crisis, of course, we have to address this head on. The crooks out there, they're not totally stupid, but they do know that our jail's been closed in the past. Come to Brown County, get caught, they don't have room for you, the judges give light sentences. One of the things that I'm going to do, if you give me your support, I want stronger sentences out of our judges. This comment about first-time offenders, that just kills me. You didn't wake up this morning and say, hey, I'm going to do drugs, go out and get caught. Sorry. First-time offender means you just got caught for the first time. Our budget is limited, yes. Our jail space is limited, yes. But we need maximum penalties on this kind of thing. Second, and one of the biggest things that that I see is to make a community great, you've got to have the people. We have people here tonight that really, you would not come out here if you didn't care about your community. You wouldn't be turning on to Facebook or the radio if you didn't care about your community. We have a great community around us, but we need to strengthen it. We need to keep strengthening our kids, our 4-H, our schools. Vote for the 4-H levy. Guys, this is very important. You will not find a guy in jail for drug abuse that ever went through 4-H. Okay? 4-H is great. 4-H, this county needs to keep 4-H. When Jacob graduated from high school at Western Town, they had the highest rate of kids that went on to the college level in school history. We need to keep our schools, our kids safe at all times. Our fire, our EMS, they need all of our support in the county, and our people can do that. We can do that.
Okay. Tom, same question. Top 2 problems, and what are some potential solutions?
Absolutely. And I've gone on record saying this before. The top 2 problems and issues that I see facing the county go hand in hand, and it's economic development and infrastructure. And economic development has been talked about a little bit already, but Brown County has a lot of resources that can be used. 32, 68, we have the river, all those that need to be used and utilized in order to do that. And so how do you do that? Well, I think creating a 5, 10, 15-year plan for the county, economic growth plan, would definitely benefit to put a picture of what the county wants to see in those years. And then you start to develop plans of action for that. And that's where the second problem of this comes in, that's infrastructure. Maintaining our infrastructure, making sure our roads and everything are up to date, making sure that the villages have the capacity utility-wise to accept any new businesses. Some villages in county are kind of limited as to what utilities they can even provide, water, sewer, electric, those type of things. And then we also have to start looking kind of to the future. What new type of things can we bring in? And one of them that some of us may take for granted we don't think about is high-speed internet that is accessed throughout the entire county. That's something that needs to be done. And that's something that I didn't really even think about until my wife lost out on a job opportunity because we didn't have it. At one point we lived at Lake Winoka, and at that point the only provider out there was Frontier. And she's a speech-language pathologist. And as a speech-language pathologist, there was an opportunity for her to be able to teach online over a computer and kind of face-to-face with a child and teach them with swallowing issues or if they're having issue with certain words or those type of things. But in order to do that, you have to pass a speed test for the company to hire you. You have to prove to them, if you hire me, I will be available, my internet can do that. And she couldn't do it. So that was a source of revenue that she couldn't do. So that's something that needs to be addressed and pushed. And one of the action steps that I also think that we as a county need to take in order to get there is hiring a county administrator. A county administrator, and for people who don't know that, a lot of villages have village administrators. But a county administrator would be a person who is an expert in the field of administration that would allow and help us to make the government run more effectively and smoothly. And I've been asked when I say that, well, how are we going to pay for a county administrator? The budget's tight. But a good county administrator would be evaluated on what revenue and what grants and stuff that they bring into the county to offset that salary. I know a lot of village administrators, through grant writing and other things that they do, they offset their salaries to the village completely. And it's not dollar for dollar, but they offset that salary and bring a lot of benefit to the village. So that would be kind of my first two issues and how I'd address them.
Okay, Darrell, same question.
Well, part of the drug problem that we're having in this county is hopefully going to be addressed with the pharmacy lawsuit that the state has brought up. If we can get that settled and get a portion of it, that will help us to go ahead and fight the drug issue. Now, as for the jail, we just got permission to open the dormitory, which will open next week, next Monday. So we'll be able to use the jail to put more of these people in there that should be. As far as the budget, we've got a very tight budget in this county. If we hadn't pulled $500,000 out of our MCO money, we would have been $500,000 in the red. That is what the county offices requested to run their budget in 2020. So the group of commissioners that are in there were very tight on money. Of course, Sheriff's Department, judges, they take about 60% of the budget just to operate them. So the only way to get extra money in the county is to raise sales tax. I'm not in favor of that. We just need to keep squeezing the buffalo until he hollers real bad. So that's all I got to say.
All right, Woody? Talk to us about the military history of Austria.
Well,
No, I'm sorry, top two questions facing the county.
I mean, I can try. Anyway, one of the problems is definitely that we want to bring more businesses into Brown County. As you all know, Mount Orb is growing, and I've been a part of that for the past 10 years. Businesses are looking to go where people are. The more people we bring in, the more businesses will follow. And this could solve, a lot of problems that are out there. And also I feel we need to put public safety at the top of everybody's list. There's a lot of issues and upgrades that need to be taken care of as soon as possible. And, I believe we would all benefit from this, so.
Okay, Tom, you are first up for the next question, which Darrell kind of led into a little bit when he was talking about the budget. The budget process, I'm sure that Darrell's familiar with this, is the elected officials ask for what they want, and then it's up to the commissioners to balance that budget. And it's always a difficult thing to do. So with a limited amount of money coming in, how would you try to make sure that all of the county's needs are taken care of? And I don't believe it's possible to raise the sales tax any higher than it already is.
Yeah, I don't know about that either, but the budgeting process, I do have a little bit of a sliver of experience, because when I was on the Board of Elections for Brown County, I was one of those people that got to go to the commissioners and say, we need more money, and then they politely said no. And so that's something that I'm familiar with, that process and how that works. And when someone comes to you with a budgetary need, I think you have to take it by a case-by-case basis. Why are they asking for more money? What has changed? Every department has kind of its own set of rules. You know, the state will come down with guidelines and say, hey, this is what you now need to do. The auditor's office has it, the treasurer's office has it. Every office has that, where the state will change the rules. And so sometimes when they're coming to you for more money, it's because the rules changed and now they have to do something with that. And sometimes, no matter how creative they can get with their budget, it just doesn't work. And so when it comes to budgeting on a limited budget, I think you just have to take it case by case. Why are they coming to us? What has changed in their world? Why are they asking for more money? And is there any other way maybe we could meet in the middle? Is there an alternative route in exploring those type of opportunities? So that's how I address every issue when they come to the budget issue.
Okay, Darrell, tell us a little bit about what your struggles are to make sure that the budget gets balanced in light of all the challenges.
Well, I want to answer to Tom's question, or statement to start with. They came and asked us for $100,000 to start in the first of the year. Our question, we have never refused them money. Why should you give them $100,000 at the first of the year and they set on it and not spend it when maybe somebody else will need it earlier? We never told them that we would not fund them. Now, back to the budget cycle. Sometimes I think when people send in their wish list that we should just say, here's the amount of money that you can get. You handle it. When you run out, don't come back and ask us for more money. That's your allotment, that's it.
Okay, Woody, again, challenges of dealing with a limited income and tight budgets.
Well, to be honest, I would just have to weigh each issue that comes to the commissioner's office and just go from there. You would have to, research everything that they've asked for, and if possible, grant the wish. If not, then sorry.
Okay. Your thoughts, Dave?
The budget is, yes, it's tight. It's been tight for everybody. It's tight on everybody at home. But I was out going to village meetings, township meetings, and things of this nature, going around when I'm available. I was at a village meeting last week, and it was brought up in the village meeting that there is an individual or a group of individuals that have hunting lodges. All right? They're selling hunting packages for $35,000, and they're not being taxed like the hotel is taxed. This guy has found a loophole. Does it all across the county. Not across the county, I'm sorry. Across the country. He has several of these hunting lodges everywhere. It's brought up at this village meeting. It's not fair. The police get called out. The fire get called out. They have parties here where the police get called to do this. They get the protection of the county, but they don't pay any taxes like you would if you go to the hotels and pay. They ask the question, what can we do? very good. One of the things I had that I brought up to the village was you could set up an entertainment tax on your village. The only bad thing about that, if you do an entertainment tax, you go to McDonald's, you're going to get that 25% entertainment tax. That's the bad thing about it. But we've got people out there spending money that we're not taxing on. That money that the county could have. Yes, the budget, everybody, and it's just like in the business world. I knew this when I was with Duke Realty Investment. At the beginning of the year, or at the end of the year, when you set your budget up for the next year, you had building owners or building managers that would ask for $100,000, but they only needed $50,000. We can't do that. When the auditor's office or the recorder's office or the sheriff or whoever, we need your bottom line. We don't need it to be ballooned so we can make you an offer of this. I need your bottom line so I can do my job and make the budget as honest as I can. And that's what we need to do.
Okay, Darrell, you get the first bite of this apple. We've talked about limited budgets now for the past 15 or 20 minutes, but there are options out there should the commissioners choose to pursue them. One of those would be, say, a $1 or $2 million public safety levy that would be able to raise more money for the sheriff's office or for the EMS system or anything like that, because funding for, let's say, the dispatchers or firefighters or people like that, everybody that I have talked to in the county has told me about the giant sucking sound from the west, where people get jobs here and then they move to Clermont County, get paid more, then they move to Eastgate, get paid more, and then they move to Cincinnati and get paid even more. So to be able to eliminate or reduce some of that flow, more money essentially needs to be put into the system. And since you can't raise the sales tax, a levy is the only way to do it. So what is your position philosophically on things like public safety levies?
That would be a good way to raise money, but right at the moment, I think everybody's taxed to death. I mean, it would be all right to run a levy, but I don't think people would pass it right now. There's too much. There's also a sucking sound that's coming out of the worker's wallet. They got to have some of that money to live on. So I would really have to think about a safety levy.
Okay, Woody?
Once again, I think solving a lot of our problems with the money, and yes, we are losing a lot of people to Clermont County and stuff like that because it's higher paying. So once again, I think we should try to bring in more businesses, and that would solve a lot of our problems. Is bringing the businesses in, bringing the people in, and I'm sure that will solve a lot of our problems.
Okay, Dave? Philosophically opposed or open to public safety levies and other fundraising?
It's a two-sided coin, a big two-sided coin here. Let's face it, we come from a farming community. We can only tax our farmers so much. If they're pulling 65% of their income to recuperate what they put in the ground, they don't have the money to pay any more taxes. We can't keep taxing every one of us to death. Okay? Yes, we need to increase our 911 center, our fire, our EMS. And there's a couple different ways you could go about it. Yes, a tax levy is one. I believe that we could go to Columbus. If I'm elected, I guarantee you this. I'm going to be in Columbus next, or Adam, they're going to get tired of seeing me in Columbus wanting more money from the state down here. Dave is going to get tired of seeing me. I want more money down here. I want more money for my roads. I want more money to operate my county. But I don't want to run a tax levy because the farmers in this county we just can't do it. Like Darrell was saying, it most likely would be passed, we'd be spinning our wheels. But the only way we're going to bring businesses in here is if we improve our roads. The only way we're going to bring any type of business. Look at Maysville and what they've done over there in Kentucky. Several years ago, they agreed to take a 4-lane highway from Maysville to Lexington. They did it. Now Maysville's got all kinds of factory. The new bridge was put in, and this was happened when we first moved up here 27 years ago. That bridge was supposed to go from Aberdeen to Columbus and a new bypass. Somewhere along the line, that project got lost. If we could get that going again and look at that, that would bring business here. I mean, you incorporate a Cincinnati bypass, let's say, from Lexington to Columbus, I guarantee some of those Columbus businesses that are around there that are moving out to Grove City, down the road, they can come here because they got a 4-lane highway that you can run 65 or 70 miles an hour up. That's how we're going to get business here.
Okay, Tom?
To answer the question, I'm philosophically opposed to new tax levies until I am presented with an extenuating circumstance that would change that. For example, it's already been mentioned, the 4-H levy. I think that is a different issue, and that's something that desperately needs to be supported. As far as doing one for public safety and those type of avenues, I would want to exhaust all other avenues, grants, proposals, going to the state, asking for more money, all the creative problems. I would want to exhaust all of those first, make sure that our budget has no other wiggle room, nothing else to do with before I would support putting on a new tax levy.
All right, so Woody, we're back to you, and we're going to go closing statements down the line.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta use this mic. Okay, if elected, now that I'm retired, I'll be able to devote my time and experience as commissioner. And if elected March 17th, I will want to start March the 18th. So when I'm sworn in, if elected January 2021, I'll be able to hit that ground running. And also will be there when they set the budget this December for the 2021, if elected. Otherwise, I'm going to have to live with that budget that they put into play for a whole year. So, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening, coming out in this cold weather. And just one more thing, don't forget, vote Woody.
Thank you, buddy. Let's, one real quick thing. The definition of county commissioner, what they do. They control the budget, they approve zoning, they approve annex, the set for each village or town or city. They set overall policies and they oversee each department in the county. Can't do that if you're just sitting there at home or you come in once a week or whatever. County commissioner job needs to be a full-time job, and that's the only thing he does. The people of Brown County deserve a full-time commissioner that's going to be there every day, no matter what. There are 16 townships, 12 towns, villages, and lakes, and 7 school districts in Brown County. I plan on making it a priority to be at these meetings, one at a time or whenever time is permitted. I don't know what's going on in my county if I don't go to my villages or my township meetings. If I'm sitting back waiting for them to come to me and they don't come to me and they complain, I'm sorry, that's not how I work. If I'm going to face a problem, I need to know what the problem is. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you guys and promise you guys that if you elect me, I'm going to do this, this, and this. But I am a realist. I know what's happened in the past, and I know what's been going on now. I know where we need to start and what we need to do. It's been brought up. We need business. We need income. We need work on our roads. We need work in our fire and EMS, in our 911 center. We cannot have somebody call the 911 center, an older gentleman. I was told this by the assistant fire chief of Mount Orr. Called the 911 center. It was an older gentleman. They didn't ask the questions, what's your problem? What do you need? They got his name, they got his address, they sent out the police, a fire truck, and an ambulance. All this costs money for the village. Get there, they find out the older gentleman had an incident, put his truck in a ditch. Ask, why did you call 911? I needed help. Yes. That's where you're supposed to call. You're supposed to call 911 for help. But if you would have been asked, why you need help? Then I got my truck stuck in a ditch, I need help. We'd have sent a sheriff out. We wouldn't waste money like this. We can't waste our taxpayers' money. When I make a promise, like I said before, when I get up here and I'm going to make you a promise, like I said, I promised you that I'm going to go to these township meetings. I'm not just promising you. I'm promising my God, because I'm a God-fearing, Christian-loving man, that I am going to do this. If I make you a promise, you can take it to the bank. I will do it. Just remember, double D. Double D is for me. That's it. Thank you.
Tom? If elected as Brown County Commissioner, what I hope to bring and what I hope that you can see is that I have a unique vision for the future. My experiences in the past have given me the ability to see things in a different light, to approach problems and come up with creative solutions, to work within a set of rules and figure out how to move forward. And so, if elected and if I can earn your support, that's really what I want to push. I want to bring Brown County into the 21st or 22nd century, whatever we are now, into the future. I want to do things like bring high-speed internet to all the rural places. I want to do things like help bring economic development opportunities, create industrial parks on Highway 32 and on 68. And if I had my wish list, I'd love to make 68 4 lanes all the way from the river all the way to 32, because that right there would open up a whole source of economic growth to the southern half of the county, making the river a really, truly valuable asset. And so if that's something that you as the voters feel like that you can put your trust in me to push that vision forward, I would greatly, greatly appreciate your support on March 17th. Thank you.
Final word, Darrell?
Here's some of the things one of the things that the county commissioners have done. There is no I in the commissioner's office. It's we. We three work together to move the county forward. In January of this year, we signed a 5-year lease with Growing Corporation, which is an adult workshop. So they're in that building for 5 years and they don't have to worry about moving or any of that stuff. Some of the things that we need to do moving forward is to have more file storage for county offices. We need to update the electric, heating, and air conditioning in the courthouse uptown. We need to add more office space onto the municipal court building. Of course, the Grove building out there, we've been patching the roof on it for 7 years. We need to get it replaced. That's where we got some file storage put. We had purchased land between the county complex and the bowling alley. In the future, short future, we'll probably make it a parking lot for employees. But there is room there to expand. We can put another building there down the road as the county grows. When I win this election, I will be a full-time commissioner for the whole county. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. There was some mention of Columbus just now, so I'd like to invite Nick Owens, Adam Byrne, and Alan Freeman to the stage to talk about District 66.
This phone number is my so I'm sure
All right, gentlemen, welcome. Again, Nick Owens, Adam Byrne, and Alan Freeman, all running for District 66 in the House, which encompasses all of Brown County and about a third or so of eastern Clermont County. So, gentlemen, I would like to welcome you. So, let's start at the other end of the table. Nick Owens, if you would like to begin with an opening statement.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you to the Brown County Press. These type of forums are very important for our democracy. This is the first forum that all three of us have been participated in. We've had other opportunities, but this is the only one in which all three opponents, or all three candidates have participated in. I've chose to participate in all forums. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Batavia. I'm a K through 12 grad of Batavia, and actually I have one of my school teachers here tonight. One of the tough ones, but made me learn a little extra. I now live in Georgetown. I'm married with a six-month-old son. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati. Went to Claremont College and main campus, graduating at the age of 20, being the first person in my immediate family to obtain a college degree. I graduated from law school from the University of Dayton School of Law in 2012 in just 2 years, and for the last 7 years I've been an assistant prosecuting attorney in this county. I've prosecuted literally thousands of cases, felonies and misdemeanors. That includes the offenses of rape, domestic violence, burglary, manslaughter, drug trafficking. There's a lot of people in prison today because of me. And for the last 3 years I've served as well as your elected State Board of Education member. As your State Board of Education member, I represent 17 counties and 1 million constituents. I've held charter schools accountable that took too much taxpayer money at the expense of children. If you guys remember ECOT and all that commercials on TV, they're out of business because they were stealing money from the state at the expense of children. $80 million. I was on the board that voted to get that money paid back. I've worked to reduce regulations and less testing, and I've also put our board meetings online on the Ohio channel that you can stream while our meetings are going on. That is literally because of me. Now, as we get talking here, I'm just going to be up front. All three of us right here are all 100% pro-life, 100% Second Amendment, and 100% Trump. So if anybody up here on the stage says someone's not pro-Trump, that's a lie. Someone says someone's not pro-Second Amendment, or they're the most pro-Second Amendment or pro-life candidate, give me a break. We're all those candidates. When it comes to those issues, there's no difference. But where there is a difference, and where I believe I'm the best candidate in this race, is I can hit the ground running. As an attorney, I don't need help drafting bills. You know, with term limits, which I completely support, but you only have 8 years. So what that means is the Columbus insiders and the lobbyists control Columbus. What they want to do is buy votes, tell you what to do, and show up. That's not going to be the case with me. With me, I know how to draft a bill. I don't need a lobbyist or an insider to hand me a piece of legislation. I'll do the legislation for our district. The following is my platform. I will fight for better public infrastructure. We've heard a lot of that tonight, and I appreciate the more discussion about high-speed internet. How can we participate in a modern society if you have to send your children to a McDonald's or a library in the middle of the night to upload a document? How can you participate in a modern society and expect people to live in this county if they can't use the internet to get jobs? It's a heartbreaking story that we heard tonight about that. We need our roads to get the attention, which I would not have been supportive of. There was a gas tax passed by our current Speaker of the House and Governor. I opposed that. But we have it now. Too much money goes to our big cities. How about we spend a little bit more money on State Route 32, 68, 52, 50, 32, 125. We need that money here, not in the big cities. I will fight, and along those lines, I will fight for better economic opportunity. We do have some of the lowest unemployment in the state of Ohio right now. But you know what? It's not low enough here in Brown County. It's not low enough in portions of Claremont, and it's not sustainable jobs. It's not jobs that you can make a living on. We need real jobs. As your state representative, I will make sure we have sustainable jobs. I will be tireless, and for instance, we have a Stanley plant next door, which is going to be empty in just months. And as your state representative, I will work tirelessly to make sure that we get those good paying jobs back in that building. Because if we don't have good paying jobs in this community, we cannot succeed. Everything falls down. I will also fight for better education opportunities. I think education is the great equalizer. As a first-generation college graduate, it's given me the opportunities to succeed. To that end, I believe the state of Ohio needs to fund a school safety resource officer in every building. If we're not protecting our children, then what is the purpose of government? We can find that money for each school building. We don't have a revenue problem in the state of Ohio. We have a spending priority problem. And one of my priorities, and always, will be protecting life, and particularly our school children. One of the last items I'd like to talk about is criminal justice reform. Currently in the state Senate, there's a bill called SB 3. SB 3 would declassify felony offenses like heroin and fentanyl as misdemeanors. That is the wrong approach. We need a carrot and stick approach. We need more drug treatment. We need more access. But if someone doesn't want to avail themselves of drug treatment, if someone doesn't want to avail themselves of the court system, they have to go to prison. I'm sorry. I've been in the courtroom too many times where parents have came in and begged the judge who was going to let their son or daughter out because we didn't have enough jail space, and thankfully we're getting more soon. But it begged the judge to make the jail space because they know that's the only way that their son or daughter will stay alive. I've, as a prosecutor, seen people get OR bonds and then read about their death notices in 2 weeks. This problem is one of the worst in Brown County, and we've got to address it. Again, I'm going to finish where I started. We're all 100% pro-life. We're all 100% pro-Second Amendment. We're all supportive of Trump. So all those mailings you're getting that are paid for by Columbus outsiders that are trying to buy this election, they're telling you they're lies and they're distortions. Don't believe them. Thank you.
Adam?
Thank you, Wayne. And thank you, Nick, for staying positive. Appreciate that, telling us about yourself. Which is what I want to do too. I want to talk about myself and talk about my candidacy. And I will tell you that I believe you play the way you practice. I've said that before. Some of you have heard that line before. You play the way you practice. And for the last 12 months, I've been practicing pretty hard. I've been getting around to township trustee meetings, village council meetings, school board meetings. And I would respectfully submit that a difference between the candidates is I've been to more parades, I've been to more fairs, I've been to more livestock auctions, I've been to more village council meetings, I've talked to more people in the last 12 months because I want to hear what people have to say, and I want to believe I want to hear where they live and hear what is important to them. And so I agree with Nick. There's a lot of conservatism on the platform right now. So let's talk about some differences. And I would respectfully submit to you that one difference with me, I've been in a leadership position. I've been in a leadership position for the last 20 years. I've been a teacher, I've been a principal, I've been superintendent. I've held those positions for the last 33 years. And positions of leadership. And you know, when you work in a position like that, you have to juggle a lot of opinions in the room. And I've worked in a collaborative way. I've been a collaborative leader. And so when you are a collaborative leader, you work with the Board of Education. You work with the PTO moms. You work with the teachers union. You work with the bus drivers union. You work with the Chamber of Commerce. And so when you're in a leadership position, and I have been in a leadership position for the last 20 years, you have to listen, you have to learn. You don't know everything. You have to gain perspective from the other people who are stakeholders in your organization. And that's where I've been for a long time. And so as a superintendent, we passed a random student drug testing program. We passed a merit-based pay criteria for administrators. How many school districts in southwestern Ohio can tell you that they've done both of those? At the same time, we also are the largest, we were the largest attractor of open enrollment students in Claremont County. And if you're attracting open enrollment students, you must be doing something right. I would tell you that our high school, New Richmond High School, was ranked first, 2 out of the last 3 years. And I would tell you that our cash carryover grew and almost doubled during my time as superintendent. Unfortunately, we had a power plant close and another one devalued by 2/3, and that is starting to whittle away at this point. Also wanted to mention my family. You know, this has been very difficult the last couple of weeks for my family. And my wife and I met in our church youth group, and we've been married for 32 years. We have 4 children between the ages of 30 and 20. We have 2 son-in-laws. We have 3 grandsons. And she and I both serve in our church together, and we sing in the church choir together. And you know, why do I mention that? Well, because traditional family values are important to me, and it motivates you. It motivates you to serve. And when you serve for a long time as a teacher, as a principal, as a superintendent, you want to have a bigger impact, you want to have a greater impact statewide, and it motivates you to put yourself out there. And I'll leave it at that. Put yourself out there. And that's what motivates you to run in the face of a withering storm at times. So that's all I have at this time.
All right. Emma?
So, you know, you have to, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We've been doing a number of meetings on a regular basis, so if you can't hear me, just wave or yell or throw something at me. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and getting to know more about the candidates. I heard a very spirited discussion about the commissioners, and a lot of the issues that were brought up during that discussion are issues that I've been talking about every day on the campaign trail. As I meet with people in Ripley and Georgetown and Mount Orb and points in between, the same issues keep coming up. The issue of economic development and infrastructure. And so those are 2 critical issues that we need to work on for Brown County so that we can open up markets and open up opportunity for the people and the children that are coming from the schools around this district. The flags you see back here are housing the future of our community. So we need to be able to work together to be able to bring the opportunities to them that are here in Brown County. I talked to some folks down in Ripley, and one of the things she said to me was that she was very happy that her son stayed in Ripley and lived in Ripley, but unfortunately she didn't think that her grandchildren were going to. And that really broke her heart because she wanted to have those children stay with her in that community so that she would be with them forever. And those are the things that stick with you and the things that I think we need to really focus on. is getting those opportunities. Now, by way of background, I am currently a Pierce Township trustee. I'm in my second term serving in that capacity, and we were hit by a number of financial issues, very difficult issues. We lost the Beckjord Power Plant during 2008, since we were a residential community. We lost a significant amount of revenue based on taxes from real estate. And then we also lost the shared income from to local governments. So when we lost all those things, we lost almost 30% of our budget. But we just sharpened our pencils. We went back to work and we started to find solutions. And part of those solutions is that we worked with other folks. Instead of retreating, we actually came to the table and started working with others, working with the county commissioners in Claremont County, working with Mr. Uible, working with their economic development department, working with the federal government and others, so that we could create a network that would bring resources to Pierce Township. And by doing that, we're able to get our priorities done, our financial priorities done, in a way that we haven't had to raise taxes. In fact, we've lowered taxes in Pierce Township. So in the face of that incredible win, we were able to sustain and grow. So that's an important part of what has made me want to move forward with this, with running for state representative, because I want to be that connection, the connection between your communities, your commission, your city councils, your villages, your townships, and go to Columbus and fight for those issues that are important to you. And be a team player, be a partner with you in trying to develop those plans and go to Columbus to make a difference for each of our communities. And the children and the folks that we have to think about, next generation and next generation. So that's basically why I'm here, and that's what I want to try to bring to Brown County and to the rest of the 66th district, and that's my commitment to you, that I will always be a team player with everyone that is in this room and all the leaders across this county. So with that, I'll yield.
Go ahead and get it to Adam. All right, next question is for all three of you. The first one's pretty quick and easy. What is your primary job and source of income? And second, we've heard a lot of talk about funding, budgets, things like that. There are a lot of former and current commissioners in this room that would like your opinion on two issues. Are you in favor of allowing counties to raise the state sales tax, which is currently capped at 7%? And what is your position on increasing the local government fund coming from the state of Ohio?
What was the first question again?
What is your primary source of income?
Well, I retired as superintendent with New Richmond Schools in June of 2019. And so I am currently employed as a assistant principal at Batavia Middle School. And so I am employed as an administrator at Batavia Middle School. So what I will tell you is, if elected, I would certainly set that aside, and I would be a full-time legislator if elected. And as far as the other two questions,
are you in favor of allowing counties to raise the sales tax, which is currently capped?
okay.
And are you
Local government fund.
Yeah.
I got it now. The sales tax issue is not a legislative priority for me, but I believe in what, if people want to raise taxes upon themselves, why would I want to stand in the way as a legislator? And if that's what people want to do and people vote for that, I'm not opposed to standing in the way of that. As far as the local government fund goes, that's something that I've been talking about for 12 months. And we all remember that we had a former governor here, Governor Kasich, who campaigned across the nation for president. And he talked, when he campaigned, he bragged about how he had grown Ohio's cash carryover. Well, he did that on the backs of villages, townships, schools, by taking away that local government fund. And I have been speaking for 12 months about the need to return that money, return that local government fund to our townships, to our villages, and to our Board of Education. And one of the important parts of this is, we as taxpayers, we can't say no to the federal government. They impose a tax on us. We can't really say no to them. When our state government imposes a tax upon us, we can't really say no to that. But when your village needs a tax, or your county needs a tax, or your township needs a tax, or our school, we're so taxed out, it's easy to just say, no more taxes, I'm not voting for this. And so that puts a very big hardship on our local government agencies.
Okay, back to Alan.
So, primary source of income, I am a consultant by day. It's a small business that I run. I focus on economic development. I focus on public finance and infrastructure. So I consult with a lot of local governments on how to get projects done and where to find the finances to actually pull those projects off. So right along the lane of what I'd like to try to accomplish as a state representative. The next question you had was, as I recall,
Allowing counties to raise the local sales tax, which is currently capped right now.
correct. I'll tell you what, I'll answer your question with a story. I do that a lot, so just bear in mind, we could be here all night with one of my stories.
No, you can't. 'Cause we're gonna leave.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. Thank
Building
you.
closes at 11.
I'll be polite. When we were dealing with the issues, the financial issues of Pierce Township, they were very significant, but we made a commitment that we were not going to raise taxes. So the goal was that we were going to focus on getting the budget right, sharpening our pencil, coming up with a strategy and a plan to address the issues that we need. So the answer to the question is, no, I would not necessarily be in favor of changing that legislation. What I would be in favor of is sitting down and working on a strategy and a plan that could live within that framework, so that moving forward, you're bringing in external revenue, you're finding other grant opportunities, and there are a lot of them out there. There are a lot of programs, and I know that I've worked with several of you in this room on trying to lay out those strategies, and they've worked. So, I'll give you an example of a project I worked on. In Deer Park, we're redeveloping their main roadway with a $6 million grant that we were able to secure from the federal government, and we're able to match it with other grants so that the amount of money that's been brought to the table by the village of Deer Park is minimal, so that they can move forward that project and they can have new economic development opportunities based on that. So I would focus on doing those things first before we start talking about raising taxes and increasing those sorts of fees. And then the final thing, when you're talking about the state and local government fund. State and local government fund is a thorny issue for a lot of us. And in fact, I just mentioned it earlier, it hit Pierce Township very hard. So I'm very closely, intimately associated with the need for that to be returned to local governments. But we also have to work with the county commissioners and others to come up with a strategy, because each county deals with how they distribute those funds differently. So I think that's an important piece to that puzzle too, to have a larger dialogue as it becomes more available. And I certainly would fight to get to, when I get to Columbus, I will fight to bring that money back to the local governments. But we need to work on that plan on how best to spend it and how best to invest those funds so that you get the biggest bang for the buck for the taxpayer in the county.
Okay, if you pass the mic to Nick, same question.
So my primary occupation is I'm an attorney. As I mentioned earlier, I've been an assistant prosecutor for the last 7 years. I have taken an unpaid leave of absence. I am dedicated to this campaign, and for the last 2 months, I've made it my sole mission. I am not in favor of raising taxes or the state legislature creating the opportunity. That's just a policy proposal I'm against. At some point, enough's enough. And yes, I believe our local villages, townships should get more of the local share. But I'll be honest with you, we can't just wave a magic wand up here and say it's all going to come back. It was taken away over years. It was taken first by Governor Kasich to create this mirage that Ohio is so much better. He had 8 cents in the bank or whatever it was, and now he had $2 billion when he left. Well, he had so much money because he bounced it on the backs of local governments. But over this period of time, this last biennial budget, Governor Kasich, Speaker Householder, President Ophoff had the opportunity to return those funds. They did not. They also had the opportunities to quit spending in other areas. They did not. Again, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending priority problem. And I would make the local share a spending priority. But I'm realistic that there's a real appetite to spend on government programs, both in Columbus and Washington, and you're just not going to get those local government share fund dollars back overnight, but I'd certainly work hard to do so.
All right, so Alan, this will be your first opportunity to answer this question. What is your opinion on the state of public education funding?
Well, I mean, we're watching the mystery of legislation go before us right now with Senate Bill 89 and House Bill 9 dealing with open enrollment. I think we need to sit down and focus our attention on making sure that we go back to the DeRolf decision, which was several years ago, relative to public education. And we need to address the inequities between the schools. There was a website I was watching. They have a comparison of two of the school districts that are looking at getting levies passed. And as you look at the amount of revenue, one levy was for 9.4 mils, the other was for 7.9. Over the period over the arc of that finance period, the one school generated about $89 million off 7.9 mils. The other school only generated $27 million off of 9.4 mils. So you're seeing right there the difference between a large school district and more wealthy school district versus poorer school districts. And we need to really focus on how best to deal with filling that gap. And I also would be willing to discuss the idea of finding a way to deal with some of the capital funding. You know, some of the things that are non-related to education directly. I mean, schools, as Adam and Nick well know, they have roofs, they have windows, they have air conditioning, and they have heating systems, and all of those things need to be paid for. So finding ways to help with those, that offset those costs, that would be something that I think should be looked at by the legislature and find a way to pay for it. In one version that I saw that's working its way through the House of Representatives, did discuss trying to put additional resources toward the more at-risk population inside schools. And I think that's a very good place to invest, because those are the areas that I think a lot of schools have the toughest time trying to reach those students. And so to be able to provide additional resources toward that group, I think could be very helpful. So I think with all of those things, I think those are the focuses that I would like to look at toward public education.
Okay, you pass the mic down to Nick. Nick and Adam, same question. State of public education funding and possible solutions.
Well, as was briefly mentioned, there was a DeRolf state constitution decision that was issued 4 opinions that our state constitution has been, our state constitution funding system is deemed unconstitutional. Essentially that we are not providing a thorough and efficient system of common schools. That's the language of the state constitution. After the 4th opinion in the early 2000s, the state Supreme Court said, well, it's still unconstitutional, legislature, you've done a little bit, but we're done with it. You know what? The legislature needs to keep working on it. Unfortunately, we have a broken system in the state of Ohio where, particularly with our report card rating system, all the A's go to school districts with the most money, and all the F's go to the school districts with the least money. That's fundamentally wrong, because you can't tell me that the schools that are getting F's aren't giving opportunities to children. They are, and they will continue to be. We need to do a better job of having less reliance on our property taxes. We need to truly find what it costs to educate a child in the state of Ohio. There's a bill pending in the state legislature, and it's been going on for 2 years. It just tells you the complexity of it. It's called the Cupp-Patterson bill. In the Cupp-Patterson bill, the idea is to find that true cost of educating a child. But when the state is a very complex system of schools, we have 610 local school districts in the state of Ohio. We have big urban districts, we have suburban districts, we have rural districts, we have small town districts. They all have different funding mechanisms, or they all have different funding streams that are easier or tougher. It's hard for certain areas, no matter how many levies they pass, they just will not find the amount of revenue it needs to educate their children. We need to do a better job of sending more money from the state. Again, it goes to my first priority, or one of my first statements. We don't have a revenue problem in the state of Ohio. We have a spending priority problem. And I would make it a priority to get less money that goes to government programs that don't return quality of life items like educating children. I take less money, or take more money from those areas and bring it to our schools. Our kids deserve it. If we don't have strong public schools, we don't have strong communities.
The state funding formula for schools was ruled unconstitutional 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. And for this past 30 years, the state legislature has still not done anything about it. And it needs to be handled. And I would tell you that I'm the only candidate on this stage that has worked in this area. And I would tell you that we need at least one. Just give me one educator in the General Assembly. Just one? Can we have one that can help formulate school policy, funding policy, and understands it the way I do? Now, there are unique needs to school districts like the ones that are here in Brown County. The busing that you have to do because your school districts are so big geographically, yet small often in numbers of students. And so the state funding formula has to take into account the unique needs that rural schools have when it comes to busing. The other thing is oftentimes in a rural environment, the millage is applied differently because we have different valuations on property, and so farmers disproportionately are charged with the cost of educating students. And that has to end. The state funding formula has to change. And so when a school district needs money, they go to the voters, and the voters say, hey, wait a minute. You got a C, you got a D, or your school has an F. Well, that's another issue that has to change. The state accountability system for assigning school districts a report card. And just a few years ago, many schools in our area had an excellent rating. Some may even had an excellent with distinction rating. But then our former governor, deemed himself the education governor, decided that that just can't be right. It can't be true that schools like Georgetown, Western Brown, Eastern, Ripley, New Richmond, Batavia, they can't be excellent with distinction like these ones around Columbus. And so we changed an accountability system, and now we have proof after proof that the district report card system is more of a reflection on the socioeconomic status of the students, and not really a reflection of the teachers, the staff, and the work that that school district is doing to educate their children. And I hear that all the time. And when I go around, parents don't care what their school's grades are, because they know how hardworking their teachers are. They know how hard their kids are working. And so it creates mental health stress, mental anxiety. We all know kids who come home crying because of the teach to the test mentality that is prevalent in our schools today. And it's prevalent because of this report card, the need to have an A or B so that we can try to get a levy passed. And it falls on our kids in an unfair way.
All right, so if you could return the microphone to Nick. I wanted to get into the campaign literature that has been sent out to many of us in our homes. I know I've gotten these in my home. And there has been some question about where these have come from, who's paying for them. The Growth and Opportunity PAC Incorporated is paying for these, at least that's what it says here. Post Office Box 8218, Columbus, Ohio. So I got curious today and started poking around about the Growth and Opportunity PAC. Found out that it has been created the first time was 2016. And in 2018, there was $1 million donated to this PAC by another group that was wanting to get the what they call the bailout bill passed about the nuclear plants, where you got those mailers that asked you not to give your personal information to the Chinese government and declined to sign. Remember that? Well, that bill passed. So now these companies are getting some money from the state that they normally wouldn't have gotten when that bill passed. So you can debate that whether or not you want to think that that's a good thing or not. But these have come from the same group. Now, if you look at the Federal Election Commission's website, you will not see in this election cycle how much money has been donated to this group, nor will you see where it's been spent. So that's a mystery that will be solved after the election. So that would be something that we could look into. So looking through these mailers, Nick, we wanted to start with you. What is your reaction to these, and is there anything on these mailers that you object to or you find that is not true?
Can you hold up the picture of me in front of a stack of cash? You can come and see my humble residential house that I bought for $99,500 that you can look up on the Brown County Auditor's site. You're not going to find a fat cat here. But you know what, folks? That's what happens when Columbus is trying to buy this election. The money behind this group is supported by Speaker Larry Householder. See, a couple years ago, there was a speaker race. It was between Speaker Ryan Smith and Speaker Larry Householder, and there was a lot of dark money groups on both sides created. And this, I think it's called Growth and Opportunity PAC, was created to put Speaker Larry Householder in control. And guess what, folks? He is in control, but he needs to stay in control. And to stay in control, they pick the winners and losers. They also do that at the Senate level, as candidate David Uible said. That's what the Senate did. They picked a candidate, and then they flushed the area with cash, propping them up, making them look like they're the best thing since sliced bread. You know, for instance, you'll see on one of my opponent's mailers how he's the only endorsed pro-life candidate. Give me a break. We're all pro-life here. I have a pro-life endorsement as well. That issue does not separate us. They're trying to buy this election. For instance, one of the negative ads on me is that I gave this huge bonus and voted for pay increases. Well, first of all, government employees do have to get paid. All three of us on this table have been a government employee. You don't work for free. And oh, by the way, I did vote for increases. They're called cost of living increases. And as a leader in the Trump economy, if you're not getting a cost of living increase, then shame on you. Our employees deserve at least that. If this was a recession, I'd understand about increases. There was another issue. That I'm against vaccinating kids, baloney. There's a state law right now that says if you have a religious reason or a medical necessity, you don't have to vaccinate. I believe in that. A group came to our State Board of Education meetings and asked us to make sure the Ohio Department of Education was putting out proper guidance to ensure families knew they had options. All I said in the meeting is I support that. I support following the law. I would lose my law license if I didn't support following the law. And lastly, I'm a political insider. I've never been a lobbyist. I've never been a consultant. I tell you what, there's a lot of people in prison right now that wish I was a political insider. What's the next week's mailer's going to be? Nick Owens led to the overpopulation of the prison system. I'm guilty.
Well, Wayne, I just happened to bring mine tonight, and I've got it right here. And now, Nick, I was kind of bothered by the first one because your picture was in front of mine, and it kind of irritated me. So on this last one, though, I really appreciated how you were on one side and I was on the other, so that at least, right. I know, that's why I'm saying. The first one was kind of unfair because you were in front, and I didn't like being behind you, but on this one, we were on opposite sides, so I thought that was a little fair. But this one says that I oversaw the decline of the school district's fiscal health, including millions in lost revenue. Well, when was the last time that a superintendent was in charge of whether a functionally obsolete coal-fired power plant was going to be returned to green space? When was the last time that a superintendent oversaw national market forces in the coal industry that led to the decline of the value of Zimmer going from 155 million to 50 million. So I don't think I'm really responsible for that, although according to the Growth and Opportunity PAC I am. It said Byrne voted to cut $3 million in education services. Well, I would tell you that the Board of Education wisely and correctly directed me to cut $3 million. And I believe that I complied with that in a collaborative way. Our administrative team met. Our administrative team met with teachers. We met with parents. We talked about how we were going to do that. And the Growth and Opportunity PAC would probably accuse me of being fiscally reckless if we didn't close an elementary in light of falling enrollment and falling revenue. Let's see here. It says tax and spend liberal Adam Byrne. How about that one? Fought for higher taxes. That is just a function. That just so false. He proposed a permanent income tax levy increase. And so what I would say about this is, can we at least have half a truth? Can we get to half-truths here? Because this is not even a half-truth. Now, I also brought this one right here. You forgot this one, Wayne. This one says drain the swamp at the top. Drain the swamp at the top of this one. And this one says that I obtained a Batavia school job without applying. And so I want to address that because there may be some people in the room that are concerned about the fact that I am currently employed by Batavia Schools. Well, I will tell you this. Batavia Schools interviewed 23 times. The principal interviewed 23 times. Didn't even know I was retiring. Didn't even know that I might be available. So after interviewing 23 times and not finding an applicant that met their requirements, she goes to the superintendent. The superintendent says, hey, I happen to know of somebody else that might be available. Calls me up, and they interview me, and they offer me the job. So I was not given a job unfairly. They tried to hire somebody else, and after 23 interviews, they weren't capable of finding somebody that met the requirements and interviewed me. So I just didn't want to make sure you forgot. I'm the only candidate, I think, that's been attacked from two sides. So there you go, Wayne.
All right, well, there's, before you get started, Alan, there's one thing that I wanted to point out to these as well. Now, I normally wouldn't jump in like this, but as a voter and as a citizen, I'm also getting these in my mailbox. So as somebody that kind of knows, kind of pays attention, a superintendent doesn't vote to do anything. That's the school boards.
Make recommendations.
The school boards do that. First of all, I'd like to point that out. And I wanted to ask you guys if either one of you are against Trump.
Well, there's a footnote. Where's the microphone at? There's a footnote on there that lists that I'm against Trump because of a board meeting from 2013. Trump wasn't even president for 3 more years. He doesn't become president until 2016, yet I'm supposedly anti-Trump in 2013.
Okay, so the Growth and Opportunity PAC is not here to respond. So, Alan, before I wanted to get to that, because it's the elephant in the room. If we're supposed to vote no for Nick, and we're supposed to vote no for Adam, then clearly these people are supporting you. So what is your position?
Well, they haven't exactly endorsed me, and they haven't put out any direct mail pieces on my behalf, but I will tell you, I received those direct mail pieces.
TV commercials? Come on, Alan.
Well, yeah.
TV commercials, that's not on their behalf?
And I'll tell you what, if I were the one doing those TV commercials, I would have picked a whole lot better pictures of me than the ones that they put on there. I mean, I went door to door in Ripley, and a lady came to the door, and she said, you look a lot younger than you do on television. And I always thought that television put on 10 pounds in 10 years, but unfortunately, they chose the crappiest pictures they could find of me. So at the end of the day, I've not sat for an endorsement from that group. I don't know who that group is, other than what I hear from the gentlemen that are sitting next to me. Unfortunately, I think it's the regrettable nature of politics these days, where the negative is what plays. You know, if you look at the direct mail pieces that I've put out that have my disclaimer on it, they've all been positive. They've all talked about economic development. They've all talked about growth and opportunity. So that's where I continue to try to stay. I will tell you, gentlemen, I don't even mention your names when I'm out on the campaign trail. So I'm not the one that's banging on your door. That group is. So you need to talk to them.
Well, do you repudiate these things that are in these, do you repudiate these facts? Do you agree?
At the end of the day, what I will tell you is that when we have forums like this, it gives each candidate an opportunity to set the record straight. So these gentlemen tonight had an opportunity to set the record straight. So they were able to talk to a crowd, they were able to discuss this issue. It's going to be going out on the radio, so they've had an opportunity. A friend of mine once said that the cure for free speech is more free speech.
Gotcha.
So if you continue to get your message out, that's where I would recommend, gentlemen, that you go to take care of that. And get your message out and let people know, like you did tonight.
The other question I had.
Wayne, I would take that answer as a no. You ask him the question, does he repudiate the attacks? I didn't hear a yes, so I assume a no. Can we have a follow-up?
Sure, absolutely. And then the other question I wanted to ask you, Alan, before we turn the microphone back over to them, if you don't have anything to do with these people, would you like to take this opportunity at this point publicly to tell them to stop acting on your behalf?
Well, at the end of the day, it is their free speech to do it.
You can ask them to stop, Alan.
I can ask them to stop, but it doesn't. You know as well as anybody, Nick, that these are all based on what you call dark money, but they're called 501c6s. They're legal, they're allowed to do it, and it's a constitutional right to do it.
Denounce on them, Alan. It is constitutional. It was constitutional because of Citizens United, but denounce it tonight.
Why?
Because you're being...
It gives you something to say.
Because you're being bought and paid for.
I am not being bought and paid for by anybody.
Yes, you are.
It's easy for you to say. I mean, it's not even a fact.
Speak. You're getting that ready. This is shaping up to be the most expensive race in District 66 history. Doesn't need to be that way. And I will say here and now for everybody in the room that I'm going to continue to stay positive. I'm going to continue to talk about myself. And I appreciate what Nick said just a minute ago, and that this is about control of the speakership in the state of Ohio. That's what this is about. And I would implore you as voters to vote for the candidate that you think will best represent District 66, that will best represent the issues that are important in District 66, not vote for a candidate who is beholden to the Speaker of the House. And I'm going to tell you that I was endorsed in Claremont County. I attempted to be endorsed here in Brown, but I've been out working to be endorsed. And if I'm endorsed as a Republican, I'm Republican endorsed, I'm beholden to Republicans in District 66. But if I am endorsed by the Speaker of the House and don't repudiate dark money that's being spent to the tune of $500,000, then now I'm beholden to the Speaker of the House.
You know how we validate who's bought and paid for? You can go on the Secretary of State's website right now and look up 3 campaign finance accounts. And you will see Mr. Byrd's, you'll see mine, and you'll see Mr. Freeman's. And you know where Mr. Freeman's lists his address as? Columbus. Enough said.
True statement.
No, it's, again, these forums are a way to wash this out. It's an opportunity to discuss those issues. I think it's an important fact that campaigns get nasty from time to time, and that's the way these things go.
Wayne, thank you for asking that question. Needed to be asked. Thank you.
All right, well, is there anything else that you guys want to say? I think we've gotten into this issue. Anything else about this particular issue? Alan, is there anything else about this issue that you want to address? Okay, well, I'm just going to hand the microphone back to you, and then we'll go down through here to Adam and then Nick for closing statements.
As I said in the beginning, my focus is on economic development and providing opportunity for the people of the 66th district. I want to focus on that as what I will take to Columbus. I want to be a different type of legislator than what we've seen in the past and set a new model where we have a person who's a team player, who's sitting at the table with the county commissioners, with the city council members, and others in the district, setting a strategy that we can take to Columbus and we can move forward with, so that we can get more investment here in the 66th district for infrastructure, for education, for economic development opportunities, as well as to lay out a strategy where we can create the 21st century, attract the 21st century jobs that this district desperately needs. So that will be the focus of my attention. I would appreciate the vote on the 17th. And with that, I will yield to Mr. Byrne.
I would respectfully submit to you that I'm the only candidate in this race that applied to be endorsed by the Republican Party in Claremont and applied to the Brown County and got endorsed by one of them. Okay, I was endorsed by a 3-to-1 margin in Claremont County in a 3-way race in Claremont County. I'm the only candidate in this race to have been endorsed by the Claremont FOP, the police union. And because of that, I'm told that I have growing support among our police, our sheriffs. Others have said it tonight, I am a member of the NRA. I have been A-rated by Buckeye Firearms. I am told that I have a growing level of support among our fire and EMS. I'm told that I have a growing level of support among our educators. I've been networked in the education community for over 30 years, and it's an important part of our future. I haven't spoken about that in great length tonight, but I also would like to say that I'm endorsed by Vince Ferris in the Claremont County Prosecutor's Office. So I ask for your vote on March 17. Obviously, a 3-way race is, every vote is important, every vote matters, and it's possible that the winner of this race could get less than 50% of the vote. So every vote matters, and I respectfully ask for your vote on March 17th.
So as was mentioned by Mr. Freeman, we can flesh this out or have forums are good. Well, this is the only opportunity all 3 candidates have had the opportunity to address these issues. So it's funny that Mr. Freeman's all about these forums, but he hasn't showed up in other forums. We had asked by the League of Women Voters to participate in a forum. Neither Mr. Byrd or Mr. Freeman would agree. The Union Township Republican Party had a forum that included all Claremont County races. I was the only one to show up. Back to the dark money group. You heard there's no repudiation. Why? Because they want to buy this election. Mr. Freeman talks about he'll be a team player. Larry Householder's team player, the Speaker of House. That's who's team player. He'll be Larry Householder's vote, not District 66 vote. You know, we talked about endorsements. I was unanimously endorsed by the Brown County Republican Party in this room. I've also been endorsed by Commissioner Barry Woodruff, Sheriff Gordon Ellis, and Prosecutor Zach Corbett. Why? Why have they endorsed my candidacy? Because they know we need a leader from the district and not one bought and paid for from Columbus. I will hit the ground running for you. I will be your strong advocate. I will be a leader in public infrastructure. I will be a leader in economic opportunity. I will be a leader in education. I will be a leader in criminal justice reform, proper criminal justice reform. I will be the leader in Columbus we need, not the Columbus leader they want. Thank you.
All right, that will do it. I would like to thank Southern Hills Vocational Technical Center. I'd like to thank EDGE 99.5. I'd like to thank Claremont Senator Brett Blanc for live streaming the forum this evening. And I'd like to thank you, the audience, for coming and participating. So that will be it for this evening. Thank you for coming.